So, tell me about when you were called to start a church in Panama City.
Well, it goes back to when we were first asked to come back to Panama City to help another church, and that didn't work out. And we went to a different church in a different town to get some rest and some healing. And it was on the morning of October the 9th of 2010 that I was supposed to teach a Sunday school lesson. Sunday school lesson was entitled A Higher Calling. And that morning the Lord woke me. It was probably about 3 o'clock in the morning. He woke me and says, I'm going to give you a burden, a small portion of a burden for Panama City, and this is where you're supposed to be. And the Lord laid a burden on me that morning, and it was a tremendous burden. And He allowed me to feel some of the hurt, some of the pain of Panama City. And I finished my praying that morning, and I told my wife, and that kind of goes for anybody that's ever been called to ministry. When you tell your significant others that, hey, this is what the Lord told me, you kind of get the, are you sure? And so it was a, are you sure moment, and some things happened, and I was asking the Lord to make sure that this is it, and Lord, if this is what you want me to do, allow this to happen. That happened, and okay, Lord, the next day, if this is really your will, let this happen. And and it happened, and the next day I got a phone call from a prophet, man of God, and he says, just do what the Lord told you to do and be quiet, and click, and he hung up. And I was like, okay, here we go. So we accepted the call to Panama City. No building, no funds, didn't even know which way that we were going to go, but we knew that we had a call, and that's how it went on October the 10th. So, or October the 9th.
Sounds about right.
All right, so tell me about, so from that point leading up to actually starting the church, what was that like?
Oh, wow. Very strenuous, very stressful. We didn't know where the funds were going to come from. That was one of the things. We didn't know how we were going to, we had just retired from the military recently, and we didn't know how it all worked, but we had some great leadership in the ALJC. Bishop Reed, he gave us a lot of good advice. My pastor, Brother Bagwell, gave me a tremendous amount of advice and prayers, and it was kind of like we just put everything into God's hands. The building came, the chairs and everything that came with the church had to be purchased because we didn't have anything. We were, when they say home missions and you carved it out, it was home missions, and it was definitely carved out of nothing. But it was just, a burden that God had given us, and we knew that if it was God's will, He was going to provide everything that needed to be done, and He did.
In those early days, when he said provide, and it was maybe a couple of months that we had a good relationship with our landlord, and so there was a couple of times that I had to send him a text or make a phone call and say, okay, we're going to be late on our rent because we didn't have the money to pay the rent,
Right.
But I said, we'll have it Sunday, after we take up the offering or whatever. And so he was, he worked with us. And so, those first couple of times, it's like, oh, yeah, we didn't have no money. We got, but the Lord provided. And so, where he made a way.
Yeah.
All right, so fast forward a little bit. Tell me about, the first services, the first years of Apostolic Gateway.
The first services, wow. We had Bishop Reed and his family was there at our kickoff inaugural services. We had a very small crowd. It was probably 8-10 people. My mom and dad were there. My family was there, and there was some other ones that were from the community. It was a very intimate setting, and the Lord moved, and it was a great time. And then it was kind of a progressive thing. One person would show up, and then the word would get out, and then another person would show up, and that's kind of how it went for the first few months of carving it out. And we were new to it. We didn't know really what we were doing. We just had to lean on God a whole bunch. Just about everything we did, we leaned on God, and we still do, because we don't have it all figured out. But that's how it went. Word would say, "Oh, there's a church there," and we did have people that show up, says, "Hey, we heard that there was a church here, and we're here for service," and that's kind of how we grew into where we're at now.
We did a block party. I don't know, maybe it was like the first 6 months we were in there or something. We had the Broussards come over from
Breaux Bridge, Louisiana.
Breaux Bridge, yeah. And Brother and Sister Broussard to have a wonderful children's ministry. And so they came, and Cletus joined us. That's Cletus, and we did a big outreach at one of the housing areas not far from that church, and we met some people, and they came. One person in particular is a little boy. He's not so little now, but Jay, we were giving away a free bike, and Jay was like, "I'm gonna get that bike, I'm gonna get that bike," and sure enough, Jay won the bike, and it was so exciting. And that's where we did a lot of we went to several housing areas, and we were able to get but we were able to invite lots of children, and so we had a big outreach for the children at the first location where we were at, and it was very good. It got to one point where the kids ministry took over the church, and we pushed the adults into the Sunday school room, but it was the kids, so it was good. It was very good, and we tried to maintain that when we moved to the new location, but because it was on the other side of town, it just got to be a little too much at that point. But maybe one day.
All right, so are there any other key struggles or successes from those, say, Lisenby?
Struggles. I think any time that you set out to do something for God, the enemy is always going to be there to throw a stumbling block or something else. Yes, there are struggles. Any home missions pastor knows that there is struggles. But we know that we serve a God that will help us and get us to be an overcomer. And the struggles, they were. I think every time we opened the door, there was some type of struggle. But we kept on, and we kept on, and we kept on, and we're keeping on. Are there struggles now? Yes, there's struggles now. COVID back now. We even had a snake show up to service one day, and one of our faithful men of the church is going on to his great reward now. He dealt with the snake right there in service, and but it was I think anytime that we opened the door, there was always something trying to stop us, but we kept on, and we were overcomers, and we became overcomers, and we learned that, hey, God's going to do what He says He's going to do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, pretty much, yeah. He's going to do. He'll help us to do what we need to do. And this whole time too, we started the church there. We had 2 children. We still have 2 children, but they were very young. So our children they've seen miracles, and they've seen the ugliness.
Right.
They've seen both of it,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have. They've been eyewitness to miracles.
Yeah.
People coming up out of wheelchairs. God closing wounds that the doctors could never close in a lady's back. cancer being healed, heart conditions being healed. They were eyewitness to that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, anytime that you have that type of ministry going on, the enemy's going to throw everything that he can at you to get you off track and discouraged and everything else like that. So.
All right. So tell me about finding and purchasing the property in Springfield.
Yeah, so I was on Facebook, and so there was a post out there, and a friend of ours, they had started a church the same time we did, and someone had tagged her for a building as maybe a possible building. And so I messaged her and said, hey, are y'all looking at that property? And she said, no, that's not the area we want to be in. And I said, okay, well then we're going to pursue it. And so we did, and we reached out, and she knew the lady, the realtor, and it was just like so-and-so. And okay, so then next thing you know, we had a contract for the building, and it was in rough shape, but the Lord did miracles on that building. And he's still doing miracles in that building, and for that building, and with that building. Yes. That's good. It was good. It was, we closed at the end of December
31st.
And the weeds were as high as 4 foot tall, and I mean it was pretty intense. Yeah, it was pretty intense to get it going. I mean,
Well, we made a phone call before we closed, and we talked to our good friend Charlie Walker, who is a contractor, and he's a great friend. We've been friends for over 30 years. We asked him, he says, if we take this on, and we didn't even get the words out of our mouth, and he says, I'll do it.
Yeah.
We prayed that God would bless Charlie immensely. He came in, and him and his guys, they done a tremendous job, and they done it all for just about just the cost of material.
Materials.
So you couldn't ask for a better friend and somebody that you can put trust in to build your building back and to bring it to what it is today.
Yeah, and his brother Chris Walker, he did the electric and all the lights and stuff, and he wanted to make sure that we were seen, that our church would be seen. And they wanted, Charlie, when we were going through some of the plans, what we wanted, and he was like, well, you need a bathroom in the pastor's office. And I'm like, really? But okay, yeah, we do. And it was good. It's a great idea, Afterwards, it's a great idea,
Right.
But he had known because of the way he was raised, and he knew the inner workings of a church, whereas we didn't really have all that exposure. So he was able to shed some light on that for us too.
Right.
All right. Are there any key memories or highlights from the time from moving to Springfield, say through Hurricane Michael?
Moving from Lisenby to Springfield, probably our last service that we had at Lisenby, we had this couple come.
Mm-hmm.
And she's behind the camera right now. And I remember we had a great service. Here's the funny part. My wife told me to make sure that I was on my best behavior. I tried to be on my best behavior, and we thought that we had ran them off.
Yeah.
Or she thought that we had ran them off. And lo and behold, they're still with us today.
Yeah.
So that's the memory that I have leaving out of Lisenby.
Yes.
And going over to Springfield, the memory of all the hard work that was put into the building to bring it from shambles when we got it to a beautiful sanctuary, over 7,000 square feet of a work for God, and just the work that everybody put into it was just, it's mind-boggling, and we are very thankful for that.
We did the moving ourselves from the Lisenby location to Springfield, and everybody in the church. Usually when you make a move, we find out later, when you make a move of location, not everybody is happy about it. Not everybody continues. Not everybody, is on board. But everybody was on board, and we didn't lose people through the move. And everybody was happy to help us move. We had several cars doing a train through Springfield, to get things unloaded because we did it all ourselves. And we had a lot of people helping us, and it was good. It was very good to see that we came together to make that happen.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me about Hurricane Michael.
Wow. A day that will live in your minds forever. It was, I'll go back to when Charlie built the building the first time, remodeled the building the first time. I remember I stood in the middle of that sanctuary, and I said, and these were foolish words, and I said, I'll never go through another building program again. And Charlie and I are still great friends today. We had our differences on time schedules and everything else like that. But there's a point to where frustration kicks in. And I had just become frustrated with the process, and I understand that the process has to happen, it has to take place. But I stood in the middle of the sanctuary, and I told God, I said, I'll never go through another building program again. And shortly thereafter, on October the 10th of 2018, here come Mr. Michael, barreling down to Panama City. Probably 8 miles from where our church is at, took a direct hit from Hurricane Michael to where we took 170, 180 mile an hour winds continuously for 4 or 5 hours. Our church withstood, the walls withstood. However, the roof did not do so. It did what it was supposed to do. Mm-hmm. It stayed intact. And when the insurance adjuster walked in, he's like, well, what's wrong? And then Charlie was there, and Charlie took a stick and he shoved it through the ceiling, and hundreds of gallons of water just poured out. And that from that point on, it was, our sanctuary got water in it. Our Sunday school rooms were totally destroyed. So everything that they had done a few months prior to had to be all torn out and to be redone. And we make light of it now, saying, I guess we didn't get it right the first time, mm-hmm. so we'll get it right the second time. Mm-hmm. You can rest assured I did not stand in the middle of the sanctuary and say, I'll never go through another building program again. Mm-hmm. But I did stand in the middle of the sanctuary and I said, Lord, whatever you want is what we're going to do. Yeah. And the Lord provided. He provided brand new chairs, brand new pulpit, brand new, everything in the church is brand new. From the front to the back. Our insurance company was great, and if we could give them a plug too as well. It was no questions asked. They walked in and said, here's several $1,000s to get you started, and we're like, oh, okay. We never had anybody come into the church and say, here's $80,000. Hopefully this will get you started. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it's going to get us started. So. And then Southern Construction, Charlie and his crew again was there, Johnny on the spot, and they ripped everything out before the mold and everything set in, got us under a drying thing within probably 10 days after the storm. And we're just so thankful. We're indebted to Charlie and his company for doing all the great work, and they done it good. They done it great the second time too as well. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was, the insurance, when we meet with our insurance agent every December, and the first time we met with him, I told him, I said, we need the insurance in case something happens, we cannot replace this building. We cannot afford this building, you know. So I said, we need to have the insurance. Should something happen, we need to have the insurance to do it. And so we pay more through the year, and through the years we've paid. And I'm very thankful because our agent was very, like, I said, Pat, he's like, you're covered, you know. And one of the things that we had done was the house is on a different policy with a different holder versus the church building. And so we were in the church house. Well, before we even got there, you know, I was on the phone with my dad, and I had already talked with the insurance people, and I had already, you know, I was outside our deck. What was left of our deck is what I was sitting on, and I was on the phone with my dad, and you know, I was worried. You know, that's when the you know, the devil starts to, you don't have the right insurance, you're not going to be covered. And, you know, but I had to remind, you know, we did have the insurance. And I remember the Lord, you know, he lets you know everything's going to be okay, because I saw a falling star, a shooting star, that night as I was sitting out on the deck. And I was just like, Lord, I need peace. I need something to help me, you know, because all that financial responsibility is on, did I make the right decision? Did I pay the right bill? Did I, you know, and I told my dad I had seen, you know, that, and my dad was like, you're going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay, you know. And then the next day we went over to the church house, and we had different insurance with the church house. And so, but the one company came through and was like, well, you're not covered for this. And was like, I already know that. I know. Why are you here? You're not even part of this house. Get out. You know, he was, you know, they were just checking the neighborhood, who they knew they had insurance with. And we had one part of our insurance with that company, but not the whole part, all of it, you know. So they, he just was misunderstanding, but we were covered. And the Lord really made a way. I mean, it was very, very trying times during that time. And
it was very stressful.
You know, it's not only do we have our house to worry about and to get our house in order, and our children, you know, they're still in the mix of this, and the church building and the church house, there were two families in the church house. So, I mean, and not only that, but then the people at the church,
yeah,
all their housing situations. We had some people that were able to get through it with nothing, and we had some people that didn't make it. You know, they lost lost their house, and we had it from from everything's okay to losing everything, and trying to meet the needs of the people. That was very hard, but the Lord, you know, brought us all through it, and we're thankful for what He has done for us.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so tell me about any key moments or memories since rebuilding for Michael.
The one fresh in my mind right now is the purchase of the land next door to us. We had tried for right after the hurricane to purchase the land, and they wouldn't deal with us. I don't know why they wouldn't deal with us, but they wouldn't deal with us. And I can remember when it went back up for sale again last year, my wife told me, says, call her. And I said, okay, I'll call her. And I did, and she wanted $95,000 or $96,000 for the property. And I had a hard time paying $96,000 for it. Anyway, we let it ride for a little while. My wife kept on me, call her. And one day out of the blue, she called me, and she said, if you want it, you can have it for $75,000. Okay, we'll take it. And we got it. We closed it.
But there was that but in there too.
The but.
When she said that yes, we could get it, but then she was like, well, we're waiting to see if we can get other offers.
Yes, and she did. She said, well, we're waiting to see if we can get other offers. And time went by, and they didn't get any more offers. And the Lord allowed us to get the funds, and we bought the property next door. So now we have extended into farther into our block, and we're looking to expand farther into our block and purchase some more land behind us. And we could sit here all night and talk about memories and great things that have happened, and just how the Lord has done great things, and in the positions that He's placed some of us in our church, and being a part of that and everything. It's just I think every Sunday you have a memory, and every service that you have, there's a memory. So for time's sake, I'm not going to go through, but the purchase of the property is probably the one that we'll remember the most.
All right, so on that note, tell me about your vision for the future.
The vision for the future. We've been talking about this probably for her and I for at least since we came back from fall planting in Maryville, Tennessee. Our great Bishop Carpenter. We got to spend some one-on-one time with Bishop and Sister Carpenter and Sister Erickson and Brother Erickson too as well, and their staff. Our vision moving forward is to build a brand new church on the lot that we purchased, and the current sanctuary that we're in now is to turn that into an education center and start a school. And when I talked to Sister Carpenter, and Sister Carpenter says, "What are you waiting on?" And my words to her was, "I've been waiting for somebody to tell me I can do it." And we had great conversation. We on our way back, we talked and we evaluated all of our processes. We're making changes to get ready to go into 2022. 2020 beat us bad with COVID. There was a lot of people that in our church that got COVID. There was a lot of us that got COVID. 2021, the COVID rose its head again with the Delta variant, but thank God we didn't have to shut down again like we did in 2020. And then we just got rejuvenated and we see the need. There's a great need in the city that we're in Springfield and Panama City and Lynn Haven and Southport and across the world. There is a great need to train people to be apostolic. And that's what her and our goal is, to make sure that we can have a place that can be a training center to train apostolics. Because it's not that we want everybody to come to our church. We do. However, not everybody can stay. Mm-hmm. Apostolic is you bring them in, you train them, you send them out to win other people. And that's our dream. That's our vision going into 2022. And I've been saying this for the past couple of weeks. We're going to be the movement. We're going to be the movement in 2022. Mm-hmm.